It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by Mastercard Foundation and CC Hub.
Hello and welcome to EdTech Mondays Nigeria, a platform that facilitates critical conversation on the role of technology in teaching and learning to shape the future of education in Nigeria. I am Damilola Busari. This month, we have explored the theme Rethinking Inclusive and Accessible Learning for All. Over the last 3 episodes, we've taken a journey. We started by understanding what access barriers exist for learners with disabilities to learning and education. Then, we examined affordable models and interventions that can be provided to ensure that no learner is left behind, irrespective of their disabilities. As we close the series for the month, it's important to remember that inclusion cannot depend only on individual effort or isolated innovations. It requires systems, policies, investments, and collaboration. As usual, I have guests to discuss with me today. Please welcome Tonye Falugi Ekezie, founder and CEO, Simon's Oasis Foundation; Chimezie Ucheaga, founder, Mavis Computer; Dr. Victor Ogumbiyi, CEO, Dawn AI Study; Chizoba Orji, a visually impaired teacher at Washington Memorial Grammar School, Onitsha; and Mubarak Aremu, convener of Access Ability. Let's dive into the conversation for today. From our last episode, one thing was clear: every stakeholder has to be involved. Government, teachers, educators, we all have a role to play. I'm going to come to you, Chimezie. What would it take to move accessibility from a special intervention to becoming standard practice in education?
Okay, so I'll look at it as a collaborative partnership. And I'll attack it from this angle. If you look at fintech, there were policies and there are policies that have made some of these cashless policies workable. The fact that by default, fintech apps were easy to use, and maybe it could take a year for me to walk into a bank because I just enjoyed going on my phone, doing whatever financial transaction I wanted to do, and moving on. The fact that it worked made it very easy for me to adopt without them having to have created the standard for it. I don't even get the point. So when it comes to education technology solutions as well, yes, government has a part to play in terms of, creating these standards and making it possible for adoption to be easier and things like that. But I think that one of the biggest things that we as innovators need to do is to make sure that as government is doing their own job, we are doing our own job, again, listening to those who have these problems and making sure that we are innovating in a way that they love using what we have, because it's actually really solving their problem, not that it is something that is adding headache, especially. So I'll give you a quick example. Look at teachers. If you're going to make inclusivity something that is their daily practice, then let us make sure that the innovation makes inclusivity easier for them than something that is just an additional headache on top of all the work that they have to do. So that's why I said it's a collaborative process. The recognition by the government that this is something that they need to put as standard, so that anybody who is developing anything, any training manual, would have to think inclusivity in their training manual. Anyone who is developing an education technology system will have to think inclusivity in their education technology system. That's one side. The collaboration that the innovators will now have to bring is to make sure that they are not depending on the government and bringing half-baked solutions and saying the problem is that the teachers have not been trained. The problem is that, but how about making it so easy that it is intuitive for the teachers to use, right? we've seen products that are very intuitive to use, and we are very happy that they came out that way. So how about we as innovators making sure that these things are intuitive so that it is very easy for adoption when the government partners with it. And when those two come together, it's very easy for impact investors to jump on the train because it's also goodwill for them. So it's a collaboration that needs to happen. And I feel that's one of the strongest ways, with each part playing their own part very well and not depending on somebody else to carry the brunt of it. So innovators are not depending on government to mandate it, and the government is not dependent on innovators to do all the work, or the private sector to do all the work. Everyone is coming in and pitching in their own, and together I think we can create something that is standardized and sustainable.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. So it obviously is something that everybody has to get their hands upon. You spoke also about investors, investments. I'm going to come to you, Tony. What investments, what partnerships would you say are the most urgent as of today for inclusive learning and accessibility? Who should we be saying, please come together in these sectors, please come together in those sectors to ensure that we have inclusivity in our learning?
I think we have to look at things like a jigsaw puzzle, right? All the parts have to fit for it to work. When we're looking at investment, what does that mean? Is that monetary? Is it time? Is it expertise? It's all of those things put together. We do not lack in expertise. We do not lack in finding those people who have the passion and will. You have two of them with you right here. So where it comes down to is funding and infrastructure, right? I, as an individual, can come up with all the amazing ideas, right? But if we, for example, creative economy, right? We've been hearing for years, these funds. In fact, CEDF, we're still waiting for them to even move to the next step. It's not the first time. This has happened for the last 5 years. Every year, something is happening, something happening. We all apply. We don't hear anything again, right? We received our first funding from 2 grants last year. They were US grants. We have not received funding from Nigeria, which is really, it pains me to say that, right? We are building pathways into the creative industries for neurodivergent youth, right? Why am I doing it on my own? I had amazing partners. We had Kunle Afonaya Productions, we had Chocolate City, we had Smith's Animation, who got it instantly. They got it. That's an investment on their part because they understood it, they understood the need, and they wanted to be part of it. Why did we not receive money from Nigeria? I don't know. It's like we undervalue ourselves, and unless something foreign comes in, that's when our eyes wake up. I don't know about you, me, I'm very much a patriot. I'm Niger for life.
We're there.
Right? So
we're in this together.
Yes, exactly. And I believe that's the attitude we should all have. But we cannot carry it all ourselves. I cannot carry this all myself as a parent. Someone cannot carry, or Victor cannot carry it all by himself as an inventor, right? As a tech startup, essentially, right? It takes collaboration, but it seems we have 3/4 of the puzzle. But it's like our people in power here talk a good game, but to implement that game, we don't see it. And it's really, really disappointing because the biggest enemy for our youth and our children, all of them, including those with disabilities, is time. And the more time we lose, what happens to them? We already know that the youngest and largest population of youth is in Africa. What are we doing? 2050, we're going to be in real trouble. What are we doing? And as private citizens, we cannot be expected to carry this on our own. It's, I keep saying government. People say don't rely on government. But at some point, right, we are paying taxes. We are doing what we're meant to do. How come they're not? And it's time that, government can ride on the publicity of like, oh, Afrobeats is doing well, Nollywood is doing well. That's when they come in. But when it's time to do the foundational work, the local government work, the blood, sweat, and tears, nowhere to be seen. So we continue to carry this as moms, as dads, as a community which understands who hope for our children. And we do it. We'll do it continuously. But we need help, right? As good citizens, we pay our taxes. We want to see our tax money go to the right place.
Yes, please. So definitely there's a lot of work for funding, infrastructure as well. And I feel like you want to jump in on that, Victor.
Well, I think she said a lot actually. And to be honest, there's no how we can pull this off without the government support. And one thing she talked about, which actually piqued my interest, is we don't have talent gap. There are talent, there are innovations, but
There are ideas.
the ideas we need curated support. We need and I won't even blame the government as well, because at times they also need the right people, right? So actually put them, okay, this is how this ecosystem actually works. People talk about, before when you mention disability, people will think it's just people that are on a wheelchair, maybe Down syndrome, but it's more than that. You see someone that has Tourette syndrome, a child that has Tourette syndrome, how would that child cope in the classroom? I don't want to go deep. So she has said it all right. So we just have to work together and just to move the narrative to a much more better way.
So I want to add something, because he said something so important there, is that the realization that those people who are the gatekeepers, right, are working with the people who have the knowledge to implement, right? Not just their friends and cousins and aunties, but actually, okay, who are the stakeholders here that can assist us, since we have the ability to fund. Where does this funding need to go? Who do we talk to? Who are the specialists? And with working with those specialists, able to then funnel these funds and support in whatever way it comes to the right places and it reaches the people who are most need.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to come to you now, Mubarak, as someone that is a person living with disability and has been a learner. What is one practical action that you believe stakeholders should prioritize to improve inclusive learning access?
I think one of the things they need to prioritize is making avenue for person with disability in whatever innovation they are coming up with. So I believe with this, it will scale up to every other aspect, like policy and enforcement, like training for educators or teachers, inclusive design from start, like we said, and affordable assistive technologies. So I believe first thing is to involve, carry person with disability along in whatever system or innovation they want to put in place. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mubarak. Chizoba, you are a teacher. What would success look like for inclusive learning systems in Nigeria by, say, 2036?
By 2036, looking at the level of the advocacy we are having now, I believe by 2036, we'll have a strong inclusion in our education system. So I will be using this opportunity to talk to our developers to make our website and every other tech gadgets and devices they are building to be accessible, so that persons with disability can easily access it. So that by that 2036, we will not be sitting down here to talk about inclusion again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I love how you've ended it on that note. But just to hear your thoughts as well on this, Chimezie, in 2036, what would success be when we say we truly have inclusive learning systems in Nigeria?
I would wager that if anyone was following my trend of thought, they would be able to guess what I think successful inclusion would look like by that time. And simply what it would look like is that it's not an afterthought anymore. I think that's the simplest way I can put it. So as long as anything that is being developed ordinarily, it's like how people create tools for children, how people create tools for if we're creating tools for children, we don't have to think of okay, what gender are we creating for? Right? It's just, it comes naturally to us because we know if we're creating education technology solution, like there are things that we don't need to think about. If you're creating fintech solutions, you are looking at every aspect of the table. Now, so for me in 2036, what inclusion would look like is that inclusion is so normal that we don't call it inclusion anymore. That's kind of where I'm going to. So anyone who is doing anything thinks of them by default, and children who are going to school are not as like someone who is a person living with a disability they don't see themselves as different from other normal kids. They wake up in the morning and the tools that need them to get to the same schools, to the same similar environments, they're interacting in their own way. And the regular children don't see them as people living with disabilities. And we've actually seen some of that happen in our own contexts, truth be told. We've had a situation where there was a child who had an accident and became physically impaired and wasn't able to come to school. But because the children learn in groups facilitated by the learning facilitator, the other group members for the child said, we'll bring the child, we'll bring him to school every day because we can't lose our group member. So children don't think disability or not disability. Culture puts it in them as they grow. So if there's a way we can already tackle this from the grassroots, by this time, because children were being brought up not thinking that way, someone who is visually impaired will not see it as a disadvantage because their peers don't see them like that. So that's my own vision. I hope I've been able to put it clearly.
Yes, you have. Thank you very much. And truly, you will agree with me that it has been an insightful conversation. I'd like to once again appreciate our guest, Tonye Falugi Ekezie, founder and CEO, Simone's Oasis Foundation. A big thank you as well to you, Chimeze Ucheaga, founder, Mavis Computel. Thank you for being here, Dr. Victor Ogumbi, CEO of Dawn AI Study, Chizoba Orji, a visually impaired teacher at Washington Memorial Grammar School, Onitsha, and Mubarak Aremu, convener of Access Ability. You would agree with me that technology alone will not solve exclusion, but when combined with intentional design, teacher support, policy alignment, affordability, and stakeholders' collaboration, EdTech can become a powerful tool for expanding access and opportunity. As we close out on the June edition of EdTech Mondays to commemorate the World Day for Assistive Technology, we hope the conversation has challenged all of us, educators, innovators, governments, funders, and communities to rethink what accessible learning truly means and what it will take to ensure that no learner is left behind. We are reminded that inclusive learning is not charity, it's a necessity for building equitable societies and unlocking the potential of every learner, especially persons with disabilities. Remember, the conversation never ends here. So please continue to engage with us on social media and of course on our WhatsApp and Telegram channels, and revisit the past episodes on Spotify and YouTube. Share your thoughts with us via our direct channels, SMS or WhatsApp 0703 165 0809, or call us on 0706 402 0742. I am Damilola Busari. I look forward to seeing you next month.
Tech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.